That is a pretty bad view. I was trying something with this mount so that I can record this down here. I was trying something to record this. I want to record this here.
Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. And I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Now is the time for a great reset. We've got that story, plus ham-fisted propaganda. But first, on this epic and important episode 410 of New World Next Week, it must be said, this is not a revolution. It's a blueprint for locking the nation down. This is fantastic stuff from John Whitehead, cross-posted over to activistpost.com. John Whitehead writes that anytime you have an entire nation so mesmerized by political theater and public spectacle that they're oblivious to all else, you better beware. Anytime you have a government that operates in the shadows, speaks in a language of force, and rules by fiat, you better beware. What is unfolding before us is not a revolution. The looting, the burning, the rioting, the violence, it pretty much makes an anti-revolution. The protesters, of course, playing right into the government's hands. James and I have talked about this on very recent weeks here of New World Next Week. That's the one thing the government knows how to take care of, is when you get violent. The powers that shouldn't be want this. They want an excuse to lock it all down and throw the switch for just full-on martial law, not martial law light. They want a reason to make the police state stronger. Justice Department deploying federal prison riot teams to various cities. More than half the nation's governors are calling on the National Guard to quell civil unrest. Growing numbers of cities, having just barely emerged from medical martial law, are once again being locked down, this time in response to the growing upheaval. James, Cassie and I were kind of talking about this. It's almost like they locked everybody down and lied about it being for COVID. Then people riot and they lie and say it's about killer cops. I think these are the great corona riots of 2020, no matter what emotionally driven narrative they're going to try and give people. But this was all normalized 20 years ago. So I posted to MediaMonarchy.com, December 19th, 2007, police brutality and torture are normal after 9/11. And who helped normalize all that? Our previous puppet presidents who, oh man, wouldn't you know it? They're on the scene right now. George W. Bush says George Floyd's death reveals America's tragic failures. Bold words for a skull and boner war criminal and the guy who executed 152 people as governor of Texas. Oh, Obama hosts town hall discussion of reimagining policing after George Floyd's death, which is a really great way to get black folks to chill out, vote Biden, and of course distract from your own record of brutalizing protesters at Standing Rock and Occupy, not to mention bombing so many countries, five more than Bush, that he ran out of bombs. James, this all feels so very staged, rigged, ginned up, fake, like a movie called The Purge election year, which of course was episode 38 of your film Literature and New World Order, where we talked about the Purge trilogy. Spoiler, the end of the trilogy in the film is about convincing the resistance that they should go vote instead of committing murder. Thousands march in wake of George Floyd's death from Amsterdam to Tokyo. Even Japan got in on the act, James. Interesting one from agoristnexus.com. Cookie cutter unrest in Japan shows the global COVID clampdown is no accident. Man, I've never before in my life seen the whole world so mad over a Freemason porn star getting killed by his coworker buddy of 17 years. Have you? That's what this is all about, right, James?
Right. No, this is a redirection, obviously. And what we are living through right now is a global transformative event that fundamentally is a restructuring of the international monetary order and all of the economic ramifications that come down from that. One way that is going to manifest is in social unrest, and that's what we're seeing. So the reason that this feels so staged and rigged and phony is because clearly there is a switch that the media uses, and when they want to report on police brutality and make it an issue, they can flip that switch on and do so. But of course, they could do so on any given day, because there are dozens of such incidents every single day, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. But there are certain times when they flip the switch and the social unrest kicks in via various methods. And there are many people out there documenting the various trickeries that are going on, and CNN reporters being arrested live on air, and dramatic footage, and all of this kind of stuff that's going on. But fundamentally, this is about the great economic reset that is coming. Wow, does that sound familiar to anyone out there?
That's it's coming even sooner than you might actually think, James. This is interesting. You make a good point, because this is kind of like, you talk about flipping on the switch of reporting on something. It makes it seem like it's just an epidemic, kind of like reporting every health-related death and making people believe that it's a giant scamdemic that is, of course, breaking out. So, as you're basically teeing it up right on time, Brave New World Order minions all start moving their grand chessboard pieces. Of course, never letting a crisis go to waste, which I believe is the caption to the photo on the World Economic Forum website, which features the post, "Now is the time for a great reset." This written by Klaus Schwab, executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and of course a Bilderberger who was even on their steering committee at one point. He writes, quote, "We need a great reset of capitalism." The Great Reset agenda would have three main components. The first would steer the market toward fairer outcomes. Depending on the country, these may include changes to wealth taxes, the withdrawal of fossil fuel subsidies, and new rules governing intellectual property, trade, and competition. The second component of a Great Reset agenda would ensure that investments advance shared goals such as equality and sustainability, rather than using US, EU, Asia funds, as well as investments from private entities and pension funds to fill cracks in the old system, which they do and will continue to do anyway. We should use them to create a new one that is more resilient, equitable, and sustainable in the long run. This means, for example, building green urban infrastructure and creating incentives for industries to improve their track record on environmental, social, and governance metrics. And they can improve those by, of course, lying about it and rigging up the numbers, as we reported many years ago about Volvo and the great, of course, emissions scandal. The third and final priority of the Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which just so happens to be the name of this guy's book. And that's going to support the public good. During the COVID-19 crisis, companies, universities, and others have joined forces to develop diagnostics, therapeutics, and possible vaccines, establishing testing centers, create mechanisms for tracing infections, and deliver telemedicine. Imagine what could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector, end quote. Now, this seems like another situation where not only, James, are there massive schemes and scams just in our face, it seems again like they're using coded language, just like they're using the phrase dark winter, as we discussed on our previous New World Next Week episode. So I found a couple of interesting, just very easy to find examples of the Great Reset being around for at least the last dozen or so years. A 2010 book by a guy named Richard Florida, Dick Florida, The Great Reset, How New Ways of Living and Working Drive Post-Crash Prosperity. He runs theatlantic.com now, but an even earlier sci-fi series, of course, by a writer named Sean McKnight called Second Renaissance. Started online in 2007. They've got a whole entry on Wikia with basically the future history of the Great Reset, 2009 to 2027. And I mean, they're really kind of already kind of at it, James. Again, in a lot of these situations, they're just kind of announcing it to us, right?
They are, and at any rate, I suppose individuals to abandon practices long claimed to be essential, from frequent air travel to working in an office. I mean, this is social engineering 101 type of stuff that generally I would have to do some sort of propaganda watch to put it out on the table. You see, they're putting you through the crisis in order to re-engineer and society in the way that, well, he's coming out and saying it. This is the perfect opportunity for us to re-engineer society. And when you go through that reset agenda that you just laid out there with those three main components, it's all completely non sequitur. What on earth Does any of that have to do with this COVID crisis that we supposedly just narrowly lived through? Oh, wow, oof, that was a close one. What on earth does any of this have to do with it? Restructuring the rules governing intellectual property, or, coming up with some, Green New Deal agenda. What on earth does that have to do with this? Nothing, of course, but that's kind of the point. They're coming out and saying it. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Here's a crisis. It shows that we can flip a switch and people will do what we say. So now we're going to flip a switch and you're going to do this and this and this and this. And it's not your place to reason about it or ask questions. Just do it. Just do it. What an interesting phrase.
Yeah, and that's, of course, one of the giant multinational sweatshop corporate outlets who jumps all over this thing. Good God, I couldn't tell you how many stupid record labels have to go, oh, we stand with this thing everybody's mad about again. It's just posturing and just BS. I think in some ways there's a little bits of good news coming out of this, James, and actually because they're talking about, we're going to build all these smart cities. Something we haven't talked about actually here, the updates. Google's Sidewalk Labs canceled their smart city deal in Toronto quietly, basically a couple of weeks ago, and really, the Agenda 2030 push to get us all crammed into mega cities is really taking a hit these last few months. So again, homeschooling, all these things, people are cooking at home more, growing their own food. There is some crisis-tunity here. And for our third and final story on this episode 410 of New World Next Week, we of course bring it back to the monarchy of media. And another one from activistpost.com. And again, everything we say will always be mentioned and, of course, listed and linked all down in the show notes. You can continue the research for yourself. At least 11 local news stations caught airing the exact same Amazon propaganda segment. Folks might remember the Conan O'Brien's pushing the envelope story from a few years back. This is essentially the same thing, but of course, much more sinister. At least 11 local news stations in America were caught airing the same scripted segment about Amazon and their role during the COVID-19 pandemic. We used to talk about these years ago on Media Monarchy. They were called VNRs, video news releases, and they're meant to look like it's real news from your local place, but they get it sent, it's all completed and done, and it's basically a commercial for Amazon, touting the company's ability to keep its employees safe and healthy during this difficult time, despite the fact, of course, people are protesting unsafe conditions and want hazard pay. The segment is narrated by Amazon spokesperson Todd Walker, who promises an inside look at an Amazon fulfillment center, and your trusted local news anchors who introduce the segment don't identify Walker as an Amazon employee, but make it look like he's one of the station's reporters. According to at least some journalists who actually refused to air the segment, Amazon sent the video around to a long list of news sources with instructions about how to do it. Zach Rail, a reporter at ABC's Coco 5 News, tweeted a copy of the script and said it was mailed to him by Amazon's PR team. There were at least 11 other stations who were willing to play the footage that has been identified so far. And James, I recognize one of them. NBC affiliate WVVA from Southern West Virginia. I grew up propagandized by them and I turned out all right. So James, before I throw it back to you and we kind of talk about this, essentially, this is the government store. I mean, you can get your government grocery store, your government websites, your government newspaper, and it's all under one whole way Amazon house. So I play an hour every day of what's called old time radio, OTR, on my radio stream. One, because I love it, but two, I think it shows how propaganda works. Real obvious, ham-fisted World War II era propaganda, and we all laugh, oh my gosh, how could they have fallen for that? It's so obvious, but that's why they still do it, because it still works. And this is just part, I think, of the sort of open corporatism of everything. So we take it from, it's hard, we ratchet it out to the macro in the world. Corporate mega bonanza has already begun in Europe. Airlines, automakers at the forefront. The EU has waived pesky rules banning state aid. The Die Hard 3 scenario of a fake terror event to distract from a bank robbery keeps kind of rolling out by script.
Yes, it does seem that way, doesn't it? And I think this is the fundamental part of the Great Reset that we're living through right now. It is the outright, uncontested takeover of the complete global economy by the multinational corporations that manifests in all sorts of wacky ways that should appear wacky to us because, at any rate, it's never been this blatant before. Here's an Amazon puff piece that we're going to play as news. I mean, of course, this is been done for a long time, but never quite this blatantly. And that's just a crystal clear example of it. But more to the point, the mega bailouts that are taking place in the EU and everywhere else, of course, are to support the multinational corporations, the too big to fails. Well, this time, instead of specifically in the banking industry, this is the corporate world generally. We can't let those airlines fail, so we will give them as much money as they could possibly need. And I hope people will go and read through that list from Wolf Street, because it does emphasize the point that the few companies that were actually somewhat fiscally responsible and actually did have money stored away for any sort are now very angry at all of these, corporate insider corporations that get bailed out because they were irresponsible, and well, we can't let them fail. This is the fundamental part of what the Great Reset is about. It's about eliminating competition. One, if one were of the conspiratorial bent, might even say that the real purpose of 2 months was to completely shake out the global economy of any of that pesky competition for the few main players who are going to monopolize the global economy. But
pay attention.
Conspiratorial here, are we, James?
No, I don't think we have to be. I think for over a decade, we've done work as New World Next Week that pretty much shows all of these scenarios have been...
I gotta play that part again, y'all.
Where the few, well, we can't let them fail. This are now very angry at all of the... Really, we can't let those airlines fail, so we will... And this blatant before. Here's an Amazon puff piece that we're going to play as news. I mean, of course, this has been done for a long time, but never like this blatantly. And that's just a crystal clear example of it. But more to the point, the mega bailouts that are taking place in the EU and everywhere else, of course, are to support the multinational corporations, the too big to fails. Well, this time, instead of specifically in the banking industry, this is the corporate world generally. We can't let those airlines fail, so we will give them as much money as they could possibly need. And I hope people will go and read through that list from Wolf Street, because it does emphasize the point that the few companies that were actually somewhat fiscally responsible and actually did have money stored away for any sort of crisis are now very angry at all of these, corporate insider corporations that get bailed out because they were irresponsible and, well, we them fail. This is the fundamental part of what the Great Reset is about. It's about eliminating competition. One, if one were of the conspiratorial bent, might even say that the real purpose of the past 2 months was to completely shake out the global economy of any of that pesky competition for the few main players who are going to monopolize the global economy. But we're not that conspiratorial here, are we, James?
No.
I just want to pause it for a second. It's real interesting what he's saying, because it's like, if you look at the stock market, it is doing things that it's never done before. And all those teachers and all those, what are those guys? Like the mail persons and the guy who has the small trucking company, all those guys, all those people, they sold everything. And they're not ready to jump back into anything until the next quarter. And they're all going to fail, because they're just going to fall back about all the 5 to 20 years worth of work they put into 10 years since 9/11. So this is about a resetting of the economy for the rich to keep getting richer, and then the mediocre will now be bumped down a notch. Everybody's getting notched down from this situation, and all those companies that put all their money to the side to protect their businesses and try to follow all these rules, tons of rules are given to everybody, all these businesses. And then they're going to be bailing out all these other companies. Like if you look at Boeing, Boeing is at like $230 a share. And it dropped from $500 all the way down to like $35. So everybody sold out all of their Boeing stocks. And it's like a reset. They're resetting the economy through these events. These events are possibly all part of what it takes to get rid of the little guy. And the big guy, he just keeps on kicking the competition. You know how McDonald's is number 1, Burger King is number 2, then you got Wendy's, I think, is number 3, or Taco Bell. Maybe Wendy's and Taco Bell, they're fighting for these positions, but then along comes this little company, you know, like a Five Guys or a Shake Shack or one of these kind of companies. They start to get their come up, and people need that reset that's all the way at the top, and they're gonna break down these little spots with 20 spots, or let's say you got 50 spots. You're out of here, you know. Well, maybe the person with the 10 spots might survive, or maybe they the ones that fail because there were so many rules and they followed all the rules. So let me continue.
Oh, I don't think we have to be. I think for over a decade, we've done work as New World Next Week that pretty much shows all of these scenarios have been pretty much planned. Again, they didn't just make up these ideas over the weekend and think, oh, what a great idea, digital dollar. Let's see if people will buy that. And of course, as has been said, competition is a sin. James, that is the end of episode 410 of New World Next Week. And at the end of these episodes, I always like to invite folks to come check out my aforementioned radio stream. I do news, music, memes, and more Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Mountain Time at Media Monarchy. I grew up listening to the radio, and I've essentially made my own station that I think is probably better than most every other corporate radio station out in people's neighborhoods. It's news, it's music, it's a fantastic community of folks. Again, I think it's fear-free and a nice... Something folks say a lot when they get in there, they're like, wow, this isn't really like other communities I've been in where people are, of course, always aggro and looking for a fight, and this is not that at all. Folks can click through the Discord widget on MediaMonarchy.com/listen. They can come and get a free pass and check out the awesome Media Monarchy community. James?
All right, James, I appreciate it. Take care, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, bye. Peace.
I find it so fascinating that there are so many people that are just so emotionally invested in the chaos. They're like, the system has the hook so deep in the just their hooks are just hooked in so deep into the I guess the subconscious of the people that they just cannot imagine that. Oh, here's the thing. You have all these woke people now. All these woke people that actually can imagine this. Yes, they can. They can imagine it, and they are not surprised in any way, shape, or form. But we'll do nothing. We'll do nothing. We'll not even discuss it. Like, we'll keep the narrative going at a party. Don't want to be the one who gets up out of their seat and says you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? Please don't talk like that if you don't have the data to back that up. You know, you gotta be able to like just fight for tyranny at every turn, because this is part of a reset. The rich are now getting richer. They're getting fat while everybody's starved in the streets. They are getting fat while everybody's starved in the streets. So when you get that little bit of unemployment check and you think you're going to now be able to afford that bag or those shoes or that shirling or that thing, I have a thing for you to want to get. Put it on Bitcoin. Get you a bit. This is all part of a huge plan to have a cashless society. Put everything you got. Get you a bit. Get a half a bit. Get a quarter of a bit. But you got to get something. You got to get a bit. I don't care what anybody tells you. This is the future. This is, you know, when I wanted a bit, it was $2,500, and I was telling wifey, we gotta get a bit, we gotta get a bit. It's $2,400, and I never moved on it. Then it went up to 12,000, and then everybody started buying bits, and then it went all the way up to 24,000, and then it dropped all the way back down to 11, and it was at 11 for a while. Then it went down to 7. I looked at it 2 days ago. It was, or a week ago, it was 7,000 for one. Now I looked at it, it's back up to 10. Get you a quarter of a bit. Take your stimulus money and get you a bit. Whatever you can get on that, get a bit. Get you a Cash App account, buy you a bit. Because things are changing. The guy who's only moving in cash, he's out of here. It's over. He's that dinosaur. You see, like the dinosaurs, man. The dinosaurs were roaming all through the earth. And that's if you believe in dinosaurs. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in dinosaurs, and I'm not saying that I do. Because it's possible that the dinosaurs did exist and didn't exist all at the same time. So let's not play that game at the moment. And when I say things like let's not play that game at the moment, it's because I'm from the school of the Troy Terrain. I'm under his tutelage. So look at this beautiful day. Look at this beautiful view. So what you got to do, man, you got to take this money that the government is giving everybody, because you know they want everybody on a check. That's the plan, is to get you on a check, because you know they've already tested this with the Indians, and they've tested this with the Puerto Ricans. You know, the more free stuff you get, you ain't gonna want to work. And then when they're pumping you with all this fake meat that's all about to pop off, you know, they're gonna be pumping you with all this fake meat, and now they don't even have to tell you anymore. So you're gonna be going to McDonald's and Burger King, you know, the top ones, of course, because the little ones they're already crushed. They just passed a law, you know, and that law says that they don't have to tell you. You see, the first time what they did was, see, the first time what they did was they had that Confederate flag. You remember there was a girl in Washington D.C. that climbed up a pole and took the Confederate, maybe not D.C., but whatever town it was in. It was a black, I think she was ADOS, and she climbs up the flagpole and she pulls the flag, the Confederate flag, down. What a lot of people don't know is that was the same day where they were trying to and pass the bill, and that bill was giving the rights to. That bill was giving the rights to the companies not to have to tell you what's inside of your foods. While all that chaos was going on outside, where the girl climbed up the flagpole and everybody was yelling and screaming and fighting and that was like a change that has happened. And just the other day, another chain of events happened, and that is that these big companies do not have to tell you what is in your food. So when they make you that patty and they tell you that you have, you know, yellow number 5 in it and all that, they're gonna now be putting in fake meat and do not have to tell you. So a lot of this stuff that happens is all distractions. And I know it's easy to say because, you know, we're so emotionally invested right now and what's going on, and this got to stop. And please, nobody talk about defunding police. That's like the silliest thing in the world. It's called dismantling the police. You need to tear the police apart. We need to vote in the captains. Oh. Maybe I'll take a moment and read a couple of these things. I didn't read anything yet. Okay. Salute. That's Brandon. What's up, Brandon? What's up, Bev? What are you listening to? That was the Corbett Report on YouTube. New World Next Week. It's the segment they do every week for like 11 years. Somebody already answered that. Thank you. I appreciate that, Billy. Let me put this up. My bad. This is the beast system. Right? Yeah, but the beast system is like, when you say the beast system, it appears that, is it the beast system or is it just a bunch of rich Fs who love doing these things? They're at the golf course and they're talking about taking our lives and our livelihoods away and to see what violence can happen. And, you know, they probably have big screen TVs playing this stuff, you know, like very purge style. And that is like, you know, of course, pretty evil, but if you were raised that way, it wouldn't be so evil. It's like that hunter that teaches his son how to hunt. They're teaching their children. No shot, no work. Sounds familiar. I think so, Bev. Yeah, the beast system. Really, I know so. Birth pagan. That's why I stood in the county and destroy and loot all the shops. Yeah, lawlessness. They got something huge coming up. Can you feel it, Billy? I'm looking right at it. Nice. I like y'all getting that convo going. No, it got to be much worse. Much, much worse. Great percepts. If you don't take this shot and chip, you will need food too. Salute. And God, perhaps. Just turn in, find it. Well, we're gonna see whether or not they scare the people enough to take the chip. And I'm talking about this comment here. And it says, if you don't take their shot and their chip, you would need food too. That's Bev. Yeah, but what if wait, let me just keep reading and I'll catch that thought in a second. Dino was chicken parents. Good job, Billy. On your knees. Don't eat fake meat. Filled with, yeah, man. That pesticides is all in them. Don't have a kind of, no pun intended. Ha ha ha. I didn't catch that, but okay. I bet it was good. Yeah, my brother's getting mine. There are deer by my house and geese too. God has blessed me. Okay. In other words, you would eat the geese and the deer. The beast system out of the Bible. Yeah, the beast system of the Bible. Yeah, I figured that's what you was talking about, the Bible. You know, that Bible has been used in so many ways to win so many arguments. It's like everything in the Bible could be proven as fact, and everything in the Bible can be contradicted to some degree, you know? So it's not that I don't have a belief system. I just believe that it's all happening at the same time. That what we're privy to see is just our interpretation of what our life experiences are giving us. And what fun would it be? We should be, being that I come from a capitalist name, I see the players, I see who's on the field, and why not succeed and win? And then when the reset happens in 19 more years from now, I won't be one of these little unprepared, play by all the rules kind of a person, and my family will be straight. You see, but when you fight tyranny, I think you can have it both ways. I think you can actually I can get into Bitcoin. I can invest in Boeing. I can invest in the Axum and all these different things that are right now in the forefront, which are body cameras, which are plane companies that are getting bailed out with billions of dollars. Am I supposed to be speaking to you, driving a Hyundai forever? Should be thankful that I got a Hyundai, right? Yeah, it's a very confusing book. I just got me a Bible. I've talked about it enough now. I need to read it for myself. Be so. Wow. Be system of the Bible. I feel you. I read the Bible when I was a kid and a young adult. I know one thing, it's a very powerful tool. Sounds like someone's screaming, but like a cat in heat or something. I think that's some sort of cat in heat. You are appreciated. Thank you for spending this time with me. Oh, let me appreciate it. Of course, always. I could tell you. But I'm in New Jersey, by the shore. But this is a different part of the shore. This is more like, I don't know. Let me show you. I'll show you. Here I am. just go for a ride off the interstate. I'm like that. See what the people live like. Let's go where the people go. Imagine the America where you need papers to do this. Where there'll be a checkpoint and they want to know why you're coming over here. Next to all these, and there are people living in these things. There's not all just rentals. A lot of them, I'm sure, are rentals. You come in here, you know, for the summer. You stay for a week. You're at the beach. You're having a life. You're having a real life. Looks like a beautiful ADOS family. You know, do we really want to live in a place, in a country where you couldn't just see what the people live like? You need to throw your papers in between where you're going because of a bunch of people that want to break down stores and tear things up just so that the rich can get richer. Little beach town we got here. They got their beach bikes. 2 mountain bikes and 2 beach bikes. One of my subscribers asked me to come down here. Left me a nice cash out. And didn't give me any real coordinates and didn't want me to go anywhere. He wanted me to just see what I saw and was okay with me mentioning this. So I said, let me do a video with the Corbett Report, you know? Looks like they got a little AGOS community out here. That's what's up. Look at that. I have something in common with the name of that. I can't see it. Okay, you can see it. So if you have a place you'd like me to go to, you can always hit up at BigElvisTheChef@gmail.com. These little bungalows here. Hello, neighbor. Very patriotic. Beautiful. These little bungalows right here. Like on the side of the mountain. Oh, sharp drop down. Look at this. They boarded them up too. Cutest little bungalows. Let me see what people are saying. What's on the menu, chef? Yo, Red Face, Star was not live that day. I was eating that pizza. Good job. You got me. Just drove coast to coast. Go check out Yellowstone. Yeah, I was in Yellowstone a couple of years ago. I got the t-shirts and that. Well, the sweatshirts to prove it. And the pictures. The whole geyser thing. You know, I went for the geyser. What happens in 19 years? Oh, the reset. The economical reset. Where the little people get crushed. That was Forrest. You got to listen to the Corbett Report. They break it down to some degree. Okay. I suppose. I think 19 months. Oh, North Korea just cut wire communication with South Korea. Yeah, Jacob, don't fall into that North and South Korea stuff. That stuff is possibly all one big stage. We always have to have an enemy. In other words, it's possible that South Korea is staging North Korea as the world's enemy. I mean, the thing is the size of New Jersey. Come on. Check out RFB last video. Hashtag ADOS. Yeah, that's what's up. AODO? What? Give me liberty or give me death, alright? The stage goes deep. And that report does too. Yeah, man. Deep, 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 deep. What we have to understand is that we're part of some sort of, possibly, I have no idea. I'm not going to go by what the teachers told me. The hell with that. All I'm saying is just that it's possible that we're part of some sort of construct, and one in which things like Loop and like a lot of these major players, they're told the truth about this loop. So, maybe they know about it, so they don't mind screwing people over. It doesn't bother them. Screwing people over, it's just part of the fun. They don't even think we're real. Like we talk about sometimes on this channel about the NPCs, these non-player characters that are running rampant. I mean, these non-player characters are everywhere, man. It's so crazy. And maybe this is part of that. Maybe this is part of, they know something that we don't know and they don't care. Because we're going to follow the same script, and that's emotion. No one wants to look at these things logically. Everyone wants to just have so much emotion on an issue and just fight so hard for the simplest reality to be real. Like, why can't reality be complicated? Like, come on. Why did they all figure it out, and now we just have to follow these people from whatever time we were told that these were the ones that had the ideas? What? There's new ideas as well. And by the way, it is not as dark as it looks on that screen to me. I still see a beautiful blue sky. Well, maybe not. It's a midnight blue. This car is getting louder and louder. It's time to do something. What should I do? appreciate it. If you've gotten any value out of this, then here at the Big Elvis, the Chef Rosenberg channel on YouTube, we go by the value to value system. And that basically means if you've gotten any value out of this, then hit my Cash App. $ Elvis Rosenberg. Spelt exactly the way it's spelt on the channel. $ Elvis Rosenberg. You are appreciated. Boom.